Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. Jeremy Corbyn, WTF. I could say, Theresa May, WTF. Or David Cameron, WTF. Right? Gordon Brown, WTF. Tony Blair, WTF. Now, I'm not sure whether I can go back any further because, at that time, WTF, right, that wouldn't have meant the same thing to them, I'm sure, right? Or you could say, would it? Right, because WTF is Wine Time Friday. Now, do you think, yeah, that with any of those prime ministers, you could have had Wine Time Friday that would be on a Friday, every Friday, right, up in Downing Street, right, throughout a pandemic, even right in normal times, right, if we know, right, that the people at the seat of power, right, are just a bunch of fucking alcoholics, no better than the people who go around on a Saturday night, yeah, and smash each other's fucking faces in, because that a lot of that was going on up and down the street, punches and kicks and fights and all sorts of swings breaking and all sorts of different slides breaking and all sorts of different nonsense going on, right? But do you really think, yeah, with any of those previous prime ministers, right, you could have had this level, right, of just bad behaviour? That's what I'm thinking. That's I think the only thing you could just say. This is just bad behaviour. You think you could have really had this level of bad behaviour with any other prime minister, right? Other than having Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson stood there in front of the whole country yesterday, right, and told us, "Oh, well, I didn't know." That I was, that I thought it was a work event that I was going into. I didn't realise. So basically, what you're saying is you're incompetent or you're really stupid, right? Or you just think that we are thick, idiots, stupid. Now, I don't know if he was trying to. It's probably all the Brexiters. Now, if it's all the Brexiters, now you can get that past them because they're just a bunch of stupid idiots, racists. So you can get that shit past them, right? But he stood there in front of us yesterday and told us, yeah, that when a colleague is leaving because that colleague has been working so hard, they're working on like the furlough scheme, and and putting old people back into into care homes so they can take COVID into the care home for the rest of the people. Then, right, working on on the lockdown, on the lockdown of the country, where everyone is locked down, but they're still allowing thousands of people to come into the country on a daily basis. But these people was working very, very hard with their Wine Time Friday, every Friday, right? And every other night they was having a different party. Even when the Queen was burying her husband, these people was partying hard. But when a colleague is leaving, Boris Johnson says, well, we have to have a drink to that colleague, and I don't think that that's right. That's the wrong thing to do. I think that's the right thing to do. After you stopped people from going burying their fucking grandparents, right? You stop people from celebrating their grandparents' life, right? You stop people, right, from mourning their parents, right? You had people dying in their 40s and their 50s, so their children are in their they're in their teens, or they're in their 20s or in their 30s, right? And they've got to bury their parents, and they've got to mourn their parents, because you can't celebrate someone's life, yeah, who dies in their 40s or their 50s or their 60s. You can't celebrate their life is not for celebrating, their life is for mourning. Right? And this man stopped all these people from doing all these type of things, and then he has the cheek to stand up there yesterday and tell people it's only right for him, right, and his staff, right, to celebrate someone, right, leaving, when he told us, right, that you cannot celebrate in no way at all. You can't celebrate, your son or your daughter's sweet 16. No, no. Right? You can't have a fucking baby shower, right? You can't have your baby christened, right? You can only have 4 or 5 people at a funeral, right? People who died, right, who would have 400 or 500 people at their funeral, they could only have 4 or 5 people or 10 people at their funeral. But this man stood up yesterday and told us, well, I'm incompetent, right? And the rules was different for me, because for me, right, if a colleague was leaving, just a colleague was just leaving because they've been working so hard, they can get a party. But you, oh no, 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 because you are the plebs. And that's what you've always got to remember. How these people, all of this shit, right? J.K. Rowling, well, it'd be like, you know what, this this is a bit too much fiction for me, right? Shakespeare, you ask Shakespeare, Shakespeare would be like, a bit too much fiction for me. He'd be like, what? Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello. And my two favourites are probably Boris Johnson's two favourites. Much Ado About Nothing. I know the last ones are coming up, so that's why I'm laughing. And for Boris Johnson, it's all well that ends well. All's well that ends well. I could go on because I have read all of them. I've read all of them, Macbeth, Othello. I've read all of them, right? And some people think that there's that there are 38, but there's actually 37. Like Tempest, you know what I mean? There's just so many. There's just so many. Do you know what I mean? Off the top of my head, I could name loads off the top of my head, but. So this man, just lying his head off. Even William Shakespeare would be like, he thinks too much for me, even. Right? It's just completely ridiculous what this man has done to this country. And by the way, what the fuck Jeremy Corbyn was like, what the fuck would you vote for this man over Jeremy Corbyn? What the fuck, people? And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages you sent me. A special thanks here to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that have signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all your messages for definite. And you have to say, this shooting, this school shooting in America, this school massacre in America, you have to look at the Republicans. Hey, you know what? So you care so much about life, right? That you want to stop women from having abortions, from women having the right, right, to determine whether or not, right? But you have no care about the living. You don't care about the living at all, right? What happens, right, to the people that are living? Why is it, right, that the gun has more rights than the womb? How does that work? How does the gun, right? I've been listening quite a lot to these to a lot of these Republicans overnight. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot. Greg Abbott, right, a man who has every one of those deaths on his hands. Right. Greg Abbott and Senator Cruz, right? They should have to go down to the school, right? And they should be the people who have to go and pick up those little bodies and put them on stretchers, right? Because these people, right? Even Friday coming up, right? The NRA, yeah, so the National Rifle Association, yeah, they have they've got a big massive event in Texas. Surprisingly enough, in Texas on Friday, right? Donald Trump is speaking there. Donald Trump is going to be, they're not allowed, right, to have guns within the. It may be within the complex. I'm not sure if it's within the whole complex, but I know where any rooms where Donald Trump is, no one is allowed to have any guns. And he said, well, okay, well, if guns are so safe, right? Why can't they all have guns if guns are so safe? Right? Why is it, right, that Donald Trump can be round, right, in a room where he knows he's 100% safe from any attacker, right, but nobody in there can have a gun? Why? Right? Because as they say, yeah, that it's not the gun, Because I heard one of these guys saying it this morning. That it's not the gun. The gun's not the problem. Say so well, we know that. Of course, it's not the gun. Because if you just have a gun, like I'm just gonna have an imaginary gun, get a gun and just put the gun there and say, there you go on gun, shoot somebody, go on, shoot somebody, go out, find my enemy and shoot them. The gun would be like, well, need a bit of human interaction first of all before I can do anything. So yeah, I suppose in that sense, in that sense, I mean, if you just have a load of guns, if you just have them all behind glass, right, tamper-proof glass that no one can get to, and they're just all there, right, then yeah, you can look at those guns and say, oh, yeah, those guns are not a problem. But once you start putting guns in the hands of humans, right, that's when they start becoming a problem. Right? And it's just so amazing that these people think about the sanctity of life so much. Right? It's the right wing people, Christians, the right wing Christians of guns and God. Those people. It's like just like, well, a woman's womb is our business, and a gun is also our business. So the gun's just like to the women, is like, move, womb, get out the way, womb, get out the way. These people, right, are living in cloud cuckoo land. That's where they're living, right? They are a nation of people that have absolutely no values, no sense of caring, right, for the human life. And we can safely say, yeah, that this is a major Republican problem. And just the horrific nature, right, of what happened in that school, right, and for people to be talking about, what we really need to do is, if it wasn't for the fact that he was allowed to buy a gun at 18 years old. This guy turned 18 on Monday, and he went out and he bought himself two of I think they're AR-15s or something like that. Right? But these things are basically submachine guns, right? So you have to wonder what the hell, right? Can an 18-year-old, right? Because in America you have to be 21 to buy alcohol. Right? But you can go and buy a machine gun that you can mow down, right, 20 children, right, in a few, literally in seconds, right? You can mow down 20 children, right, and you can't buy yourself an alcoholic drink, but you can buy yourself, right, this death, right, machine, right, that you can go and murder as many people as you can until the police get there and kill you. The first police that got there, right, was actually outgunned by this guy. He had more firepower than them, so they was outgunned. So they had to wait. They had to wait for police to turn up there with bigger weapons, right? But then you are talking about a state, right, where the governor, right, asked for his gun sales to go up, because at that time they said that Texas was the second highest in America for gun sales, right? So he was begging for the gun sales to go up, and I think they got their wish, because they went up to number one. And this man has loosened so many laws, right, to do with guns. Right. And now he's out pretending as if to say that he really cares. We'll see if he goes and speaks tomorrow, because tomorrow is the day when they're going to have their conference, yeah, for the NRA. So we'll see if he goes and speaks at that. But I think whether he does or not, it doesn't really matter, because he's already done as much damage as and. America's already gearing itself up for the next school shooting, because it's only because of how much children was killed here, right? as to why the story's gone worldwide, because a lot of times you're having mass shootings in America, and these stories aren't even making the national news in America, let alone the international news. So they're just making state news. So a lot of these mass shootings, because obviously if it's like maybe 3, 4, 5 people, then like, this is a tiddler. It's a psychopathic society. It's terrible, shocking. The New York Times have said Russia is run by a fascist. And the Russians have said, are you people taking the piss? You had Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a fascist. Have you not seen his rallies? They're just like Hitler's used to be. This is what the Russians are just hip straight back. They said, have you not seen when he's having like his parades? Right? The big dancing Trump. The big The Russians, are watching all of these type of things, and every time they're ready to just throw all these things back in Americans' face. When they've thrown back, January the 6th. They're throwing it back in the Americans' face, talking about how the insurrection in America and all that. So they've used all these things that just at various times on the Americans, and they will keep doing it as well, because the Americans, unfortunately, right, when it comes down to it, Britain and America are absolute hypocrites when it comes down to it. Absolute hypocrites, right? They go out and they break international law, commit war crimes, right? Hide their war crimes, and if you dare, right, start bringing up, start trying to get information about their war crimes, right? They WikiLeaks you, right? You think Julian Assange is in prison? Why do you think he's in prison? Right, he's in prison because he had a lot of information, right, on war crimes that had been committed by the Americans. Right, and he obviously he released a lot of stuff on WikiLeaks. Right? So that's the reason why they just said, you know what, we're gonna fuck this man's life over. Right, so all now he's been in. How long has he been in prison for? Because remember, at first he had to run into the embassy, and then after they come out of the embassy, remember he come out of the embassy, right, at the age of about 50, looking like a hermit, right, looking like he was about 75 years old, and walking like he's 70, like he hadn't had no light for 10 years. And I know he was blonde when he went in it, so that's what they'll do to you. They'll just WikiLeaks you, right, if you start looking for their war crimes that these people are out there committing, right? And that's why the Russians have got all these things to just throw back in their face, because when they're ready to start talking about, like, the war crimes that the Russians are committing, or Russia's being run by fascists, say, well, what about Donald Trump? Donald Trump was a fascist. What the hell are you talking about? Right? And this is not me. This is what the Russians are saying. Right? I do believe that, though. The whole fascist thing of Donald Trump, I do believe that. But this is the Russians saying it now. Right? So, imagine being a cleaner, right, in Downing Street while these guys are partying. Right, so you can't go, right, and you can't go and celebrate with your family or nothing like that, right, around Christmas time or any time like that, but you've got to go back to Downing Street in the morning and clean up the fucking vomit off the floor, right, and be mocked for it while you're doing it, right? And when the security guards are saying to these, are standing there and shaking their heads and saying to these people, "Don't listen, you can't be doing this," they're just mocking them, right? Calling them all sorts of different names, right? And Boris Johnson, and they said, Boris Johnson said, well, he takes full responsibility for these things, right? Well, if he took full responsibility, his ass would have resigned, right? But you see, what's happened here is Keir Starmer, right, has sort of outplayed them for now, because obviously we don't know whether or not, right, they're going to get really malicious and now, right, give Keir Starmer a fine, because if they give Keir Starmer a fine, then he's got to resign. So they might try, right, and fling. So they might try and get Keir Starmer out that way if they can, right? Because Boris Johnson, he said he's taken responsibility, right, for it, but that doesn't mean that he said he's going to resign. Right. Now, if you look at the behaviour, what was going on in 10 Downing Street, that behaviour, right, is equivalent to what goes on in the Bullingdon Club, where where you disrespect the poor and the working classes. You go to restaurants, you smash them up, right? You throw up in places, and you throw up in places, right? Knowing that the cleaning staff have got to go and clean it up, right? You go into the toilet and piss and shit, right? Not in the toilet, just all over the place. Because this is the Bullingdon Club behaviour. Right. So they do all this type of stuff. Because I think that I think that they've probably got a game that the upper classes play with like a points game to see who can disrespect like someone from the working classes or the poor the most. And obviously the higher up you get is the more points you get. So that's what a lot of this disrespect is about, where they'll just leave the bins overflowing, right? So they'll leave they just leave all sorts of shit all over the place, right? Knowing that the cleaners, right, who are on lockdown, right, and can't hang out with their friends or their neighbours or their family, they're not allowed to, right? But these guys, right, are in Downing Street, knowing that they can get away with this type of behaviour because Boris Johnson, right, has allowed them to get away with this type of behaviour. And Boris Johnson has just simply he's looked at the Sue Gray report and he said, well, basically Sue Gray's cleared him, and say, no, it hasn't. The Sue Gray report, right, is horrendous for Boris Johnson, right? But a lot of the stuff that's in there, right, is stuff that we already knew. But I mean, we didn't know about all the WhatsApp messages that was being sent between his staff and all these type of things, where they're blatantly saying, well, you know what, they're making arrangements for parties and saying, well, let's hope that it wouldn't be a good look if the press got wind of this and saw what was going, and make sure that you're discreet, because there are cameras all over the place, right? So make sure you're discreet, right? And then one time they said, oh, they must have been speaking about something else in the media. They said, oh well, at least we got away with like the drinks and that. These are the type of WhatsApp messages that these guys was exchanging. And all of these things here is because Boris Johnson allowed this type of behaviour. That's the reason why all of those type of things was happening. Because, as I said, it's the Bullingdon type of behaviour. Right? It's the mentality that makes someone burn a £50 note in front of a homeless person. Right? Because you want to show that person the utmost disrespect. Right? You clean up my shit. Right, you clean up my vomit, you clean that bin after me, right? There's red wine all up the walls, you wash that down, right? And then you go back home to your lockdown life, right? While we are out here, right, partying hard, right? While people are burying, right, their relatives, right? And everyone, people who are actually working hard in the NHS, drenched with PPE from head to toe. People that was really working hard, police officers out there working really hard, right? But this guy, believes in his mind, right, that he, right, was the Sue Gray report wasn't damning for him. And you have to look at the Tory MPs and wonder what the hell is going on in some of these guys' minds, because I don't know what's going on in these guys' minds, but there seems to be, right, a breakdown in leadership, right, and a breakdown in government in this country, right? And I don't understand these backbenchers. I mean, the only one, right, who stood up and just got heckled down by all of by his own backbenchers was Tobias Ellwood. Right now, Tobias Ellwood seems like I've always said he seems like a decent person. Would never vote for him, of course, because I couldn't vote for the Tories, but he seems like a decent person. Do you know what I mean? For me, right, there's going to be Tories out there who are decent people, right? We just want different things for the country, right? And that is something that you can argue those points out. But when you've got a politician like Boris Johnson, right, I can't understand how the Tories, right, can be happy with that. And I don't understand how all the letters haven't. I mean, just seeing what you saw in the Sue Gray report. You see Boris Johnson there pictured with with alcohol, after he said blatantly, right, I There was no parties. He said that blatantly. He said there was no parties, which categorically means there was no parties. Not, you know what? I walked into a room and there was a party going on. Right. He didn't go. He didn't go to Parliament and say that. He said there was no parties. Right. And then he went on to say that all the rules was followed. Right. And then when you read the Sue Gray report, yeah, you find out that the rules couldn't have been followed because people were sitting on each other's laps. Right. And you had 30, 40 people in one small room. Right. So the rules couldn't have been followed. Right. So two things that that straight away blatantly, well, you lied about those two things. And any other prime minister at any other stage, right? I think even in the future, right, who done something like this, right, would resign. But right, for Boris Johnson, yeah, for some reason the world has always looked the other way. Right. From when he was at Eton, right, to when he lied to people, say to them, well, we're going to have an amnesty on immigrants to get him over the line in London when he become the mayor of London, right? Because that's what he said. He said he's going to we're going to have we'll have a good think about an amnesty, right? And look, right, to get him into 10 Downing Street, to get him voted into 10 Downing Street, I've got an oven ready deal. Well, how oven ready is the deal? He needs to change it. That's how oven ready it is. He needs to change it, right? So if you've got an oven ready meal and you go and put it in the oven, right, and then you come out to eat it, you put the fork in it, right, and there's still ice in it. You say, well, that wasn't ready. What the fuck are you trying to do? Poison me? It's chicken. Seriously. And today Boris Johnson will turn into the Candyman. Because now they're going to start chucking the money about. Just after the day after the Sue Gray report comes out, he will start chucking out money to this person, because you know what? They want to help with the cost of living crisis. It's not going to be the right help. It won't be the right help. But they're just going to start chucking money around and hope that people forget. And I think so. And the things with the people in this country, they will forget. Do you know why they will forget? Because at the time, Boris Johnson will just say to them, whoa, how about those dinghies, eh? Yeah. We're going to start sending people to Rwanda. We sent 300 people. We're going to send 300 people a year to Rwanda. So by the time the next election, they could have sent a possible 600 people to Rwanda. And that, right, will be enough for people to go like, oh, I can't remember Partygate. No, I can't remember anything about that. Oh, so long ago. It's so long ago. Oh, you know what? But he's doing his best. Right? But it should really be the Tory MPs who step up, the backbenchers who step up and say, you know what, this is too much. You are destroying the Conservative Party. But they won't. Or will they? The majority in Ireland. There was another story. I'm sure there was another story I was supposed to read. But anyway, the majority in Ireland think that Brexit has increased the likelihood of a unified Ireland. So says the Irish Telegraph. Say, keep up at the back with it. Seriously, Irish Telegraph. But I think they've just waited till this point now, right? Because, I was watching like the Sinn Féin leader, Mary Lou McDonald. I was watching her, and she was basically saying that, oh no, we're not going to start calling for reunification today. So when you gonna start next week? She's like, we're not gonna start today. But that just means, you know what? We're starting real soon, right? But we all knew that was going to be the case, right? And, we did tell Boris, everybody told Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, right, that, that's going to, more than likely reunify Ireland. And Nigel Farage was like, Project Fair, that's just complete rubbish, right? Absolute garbage, right? All these things that they're saying all the time are just Project Fair. Don't worry about any of it. The fishing industry will be fine. The farm industry will be fine. It's all Project Fair. Dover won't be blocked up then. No, we won't have the massive Farage garage in Dover, right? That they need emergency charity help, a disaster charity help, right? That's what they need in Dover. And Boris Johnson, right, and Nigel Farage would have told you before that was all just Project Fair. And I suppose it's all Project Right Now. It's Project Here, not here to be. It's Project Right Now. It's Project It's going on now. They're not showing it. If you notice, they're not showing it anywhere. They're not really showing all the queues, especially the queues in Dover. You know, especially the one that you can see from from the space station. That queue, right? They're not showing you all those. Russian hackers are said to be to blame, right, for a new Brexit leak website. Now I haven't looked at this website yet, but I'm gonna have to go and find it. I've just seen the headline. That's just the headline I've read. But you know, it's those darned Russians again at it. Itself, aren't the Russians busy at the moment? Right? They've still got time to be taking time to be fucking with us, right, over this Brexit shit that they brought onto us in the first place. And it's going to cost you £300 a time to take your little furry beast into the EU. Now, I prefer to have, you know, cats and dogs with human names, right? That's why I have a cat named George, right? But the other two, a little kitten called Coco, right? And Bruno, right? Jet Black Labrador, right? And Piper, 18 years old, right? Cat, right? Tuxedo cat, 18 years old, right? But if you want to take your little furry beast, right, into the EU now, right, you have to pay £300. Yeah. Well, I suppose it might be euros, so probably about 308 euros. Right? But yeah, so you know, all of these things, yeah, since we've left the EU, since you racist motherfucking fools decided, you know what, we want to go and shoot ourselves in both feet and both hands. And if you don't know how that's done, it's because your partner shoots you in the last hand, because your partner's just as stupid as you, because they're with you and you're a Brexiter. Right? And you went and shot all of us in both feet and both hands. And now, when we want to go and take Muffy, right, or Caesar, right, into the EU, or a little rabbit into the EU, or a guinea pig into the EU, or a horse into the EU, I wonder how comes it kind of costs you the same to take a guinea pig as a horse. That can't be right. But, you know, take these things into the EU now, it's going to cost you £300. And that's all down to you dirty, stinking Brexiters, right, who voted, right, against your own interest, right, to lose your own freedom of movement because you're motherfucking racist fools. And I can't forget the stupid ones, who are not racist, but just stupid. I can't leave you out. Anyway, guys, look, I've been ranting on for far too long. This is By Any Means Necessary. I'm JMC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.